Hello there, and welcome back to Restful Realities. Tonight, we're journeying to one of the world's most remarkable cities, a place where millions of dreams have taken flight, where countless stories interweave through towering skyscrapers and tree-lined parks. New York City, the city that never sleeps, is about to help you drift peacefully into slumber as we explore its fascinating tapestry of history, culture, and human achievement. So settle in, let your breathing slow, and prepare to discover the gentle rhythms beneath the bustling surface of this extraordinary metropolis. As we begin our journey tonight, there's something remarkable happening in New York City right now. In early January 2026, city officials announced something that would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. The city recorded its safest year for gun violence in recorded history. Throughout 2025, New York experienced the fewest shooting incidents and shooting victims since records began, with just 688 shooting incidents citywide. To put this in perspective, that represents a 24% decline from the previous year. Even more striking, December 2025 saw only 35 shootings, the lowest monthly total ever documented in the city's modern history. This achievement didn't happen by accident. It emerged from years of community investment, strategic policing reforms, and a renewed commitment to public safety. The subway system, which carries millions of riders each day through the city's underground arteries, also reached its safest levels since 2009. Transit robberies fell to historic lows, and commuters reported feeling more secure than they had in years. These improvements mirror trends across other major American cities, suggesting a broader shift in urban safety after the challenges of the early 2020s. Yet this safer New York maintains its essential character. The streets still pulse with energy, the neighborhoods still brim with diversity, and the city continues its endless transformation. What's changed is that more people can now enjoy what New York offers without fear, can walk its streets with greater confidence, can build their dreams with more security. This evolution represents New York's perpetual ability to reinvent itself while honoring what makes it unique. On the first day of January 2026, New York City marked another historic moment. Zohran Mamdani was sworn in as the city's mayor, becoming the first Muslim, first South Asian, and first African-born person to lead this vast metropolis. At 34 years old, he also became one of the youngest mayors in the city's long history. The swearing-in ceremony took place at midnight in a decommissioned subway station beneath City Hall, a fitting symbol for a city built as much below ground as above. This moment connects to a long tradition of New York mayors who have shaped the city's destiny. From the earliest days when appointed officials governed the colonial port, through mayors who oversaw the construction of bridges and parks, to leaders who guided the city through wars and economic transformations, each has left their mark on the urban landscape. Fiorello LaGuardia, who served during the Great Depression and World War II, launched massive public works projects that still serve the city today. Robert Wagner oversaw significant housing developments and infrastructure improvements. Ed Koch led the city through financial challenges in the 1970s and 80s, his direct communication style resonating with many New Yorkers. The role carries enormous weight. New York City's mayor governs more people than most state governors, manages a budget larger than many countries, and makes decisions that reverberate across the nation and world. The mayor serves 4-year terms and can hold office for 2 consecutive terms, a limit established in the city's charter. This leadership transition reflects New York's ongoing evolution, welcoming new voices while maintaining the democratic institutions that have served the city for generations. Deep beneath your feet, if you were standing in Manhattan right now, trains would be rumbling through tunnels, carrying millions of people to their destinations. The New York City subway opened on October 27, 1904, when the first train departed from City Hall Station, and it has operated continuously ever since 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for more than a century. On that opening day, roughly 150,000 people rode the new subway. Marveling at this engineering feat, today, the system carries over 3 million riders daily, making it one of the busiest rapid transit systems on Earth. The subway spans an astonishing 665 miles of track, enough to stretch from New York to Chicago if laid end to end. It serves 472 stations, more than any other subway system in the world. Within this vast network are 28 different routes, each identified by numbers or letters and color-coded on maps to help riders navigate. The system never closes, making New York one of the few cities where you can travel underground at any hour. Whether it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning, hidden within this network are secrets that most riders never see. The abandoned City Hall station, the system's original ceremonial first stop, still exists deep underground. Its elegant arched ceilings, decorated with Guastavino tiles and brass chandeliers, remain beautifully preserved. The station closed on New Year's Eve 1945 because its curved platform couldn't accommodate longer modern trains, but passengers on the 6 train can still glimpse it when the train loops around to head back uptown. The curved platform and ornate architecture make it feel like an underground palace, frozen in time. Before the modern subway, there was an even stranger transportation experiment. In 1870, inventor Alfred Ely Beach secretly constructed a pneumatic subway beneath Broadway, a single block-long tunnel where air pressure pushed a single car back and forth. Beach had only received permission to build a mail transport system, so he constructed his passenger subway in secret, complete with a waiting room furnished with a piano and fountain. When he unveiled it to the public, it caused a sensation, but political opposition and financial difficulties ended the project after just 3 years. When workers excavated for new subway lines decades later, they discovered remnants of Beach's tunnel, including the tunneling shield he had used. The subway has witnessed history unfold around it. It has carried soldiers to ships during wartime, transported workers to build skyscrapers, brought immigrants to new neighborhoods, and connected generations of families. Musicians perform in its stations, artists create works on its platforms, and millions of stories begin and end on its trains each day. The subway is more than transportation. It's the circulatory system of a living city. In the heart of Manhattan lies an 843-acre rectangle of green, a carefully designed wilderness that has provided respite for New Yorkers for over 160 years. Central Park stretches from 59th Street to 110th Street, from 5th Avenue to 8th Avenue, occupying some of the most valuable real estate on Earth. Yet this land, now priceless, was once considered worthless, deemed too rocky and swampy for development. That apparent worthlessness made it perfect for a grand experiment in urban planning. In the 1850s, New York City was exploding with growth. Hundreds of thousands of immigrants arrived each year, crowding into tenements in Lower Manhattan. The city had almost no green space, certainly nothing comparable to London's Hyde Park or Paris's Tuileries Garden. Civic leaders and wealthy merchants argued that New York needed a grand public park to prove itself a world-class city and to provide working-class residents with access to nature and fresh air. In 1853, the state legislature authorized the city to acquire over 700 acres in the center of Manhattan through eminent domain. This process displaced roughly 1,600 residents who lived on the land in scattered settlements and shanties. Among them was Seneca Village, a predominantly African-American community of approximately 225 people that historians have documented as existing since 1825. Historical records indicate it was one of the few places in the city where black residents could own property and, if they met property requirements, vote. The community had 3 churches and a school. When the park project began, These residents were forced to leave through legal proceedings, their homes demolished, their communities scattered. This displacement remains a significant and painful chapter in the park's history, reminding us that even projects intended for public benefit can have consequences that deeply affect vulnerable communities. The transformation of this land into Central Park required one of the largest public works projects of the 19th century. In 1858, landscape architects Frederick Law Olmsted and Calvert Vaux won a design competition with their Greensward Plan, a naturalistic vision that would make the park look like untouched countryside. From 1857 to 1876, over 20,000 workers, immigrants from Ireland and Germany, engineers from New England, and native-born stonecutters reshaped the terrain. They used more gunpowder blasting through rock than would later be fired at the Battle of Gettysburg. They moved nearly 3 million cubic yards of soil and planted more than 270,000 trees and shrubs. The park first opened to the public in winter 1859, when thousands of New Yorkers skated on newly constructed lakes. By 1865, over 7 million people visited annually, more than twice the city's total population. The wealthy paraded in their carriages along winding paths, while working-class families gradually won the right to use the park for picnics and gatherings, transforming it from an elite preserve into truly public space. Today, Central Park welcomes approximately 42 million visitors each year, making it one of the most visited urban parks in the world. Its design has influenced urban parks across the globe, proving that cities need nature, that people need places to breathe. Long before Central Park, before the subway, before the skyscrapers, Manhattan was home to the Lenape people, who called the island Mannahatta, meaning island of many hills. They had lived here for thousands of years, fishing in the rivers, farming in the fertile lowlands, moving with the seasons through a landscape of forests, meadows, and streams. Their world would change forever when European ships appeared on the horizon dot in 1609. English explorer Henry Hudson, sailing for the Dutch East India Company, navigated the river that now bears his name, seeking a northwest passage to Asia. He didn't find that passage, but he found something else: a natural harbor, abundant resources, and indigenous people willing to trade. The Dutch recognized the location's potential for fur trading and commerce. In 1624, the Dutch West India Company sent 30 families to establish a settlement on what is now Governor's Island, which they called New Amsterdam. 2 years later, in 1626, Peter Minuit, the settlement's Director General, conducted the most famous real estate transaction in American history. He purchased Manhattan Island from local Native Americans for 60 guilders worth of trade goods: tools, farming equipment, cloth, and wampum beads. The exact value is debated by historians, but by most estimates, it equaled roughly $24 in the currency conversion used by 19th century historians. This transaction, often simplified in popular telling, was actually far more complex. The Lenape concept of land ownership differed fundamentally from European ideas. Evidence suggests they likely understood the exchange as granting permission to share the land rather than transferring permanent ownership. Based on their traditional practices of seasonal land use rather than individual property, ownership. New Amsterdam grew slowly at first. Fewer than 300 people lived in the settlement when it moved from Governor's Island to Manhattan. The population was remarkably diverse from the beginning. Dutch merchants and farmers mixed with English traders, French Huguenots fleeing religious persecution, Germans seeking opportunity, and enslaved Africans brought to the colony against their will. 18 different languages could be heard on New Amsterdam streets, making it perhaps the world's first truly cosmopolitan city. The colony developed a reputation for commerce and relatively greater religious tolerance compared to many European settlements of that era, though this tolerance had practical limits. The Dutch allowed multiple Christian denominations, encouraged trade with various groups, and focused more on profit than on imposing strict social order. This commercially minded pragmatism would influence New York's character for centuries to come. In 1664, during a war between England and the Dutch Republic, English ships sailed into New York Harbor and demanded the colony's surrender. Director General Peter Stuyvesant wanted to fight, but the colonists, through peaceful negotiation, transferred control to the English, who renamed it New York in honor of the Duke of York, who would later become King James II. The Dutch briefly recaptured the city in 1673, renaming it New Orange, but the Treaty of Westminster returned it to English control the following year, where it would remain until American independence. By the late 19th century, New York had become America's largest city and its primary port of entry. Ships arrived daily from Europe, carrying thousands of immigrants seeking better lives in the New World. To process this human tide, the federal government opened an immigration station on Ellis Island on January 1, 1892, over the next 62 years. Until the station closed in 1954, more than 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island's Great Hall, undergoing medical examinations and legal inspections before being admitted to the United States. The journey to Ellis Island often began months earlier in small villages across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Families sold everything they owned to purchase tickets in steerage, the cheapest accommodations deep in ships' holds. The voyage across the Atlantic typically took 2 to 3 weeks in cramped, often unsanitary conditions. Many passengers had never seen an ocean before. They arrived exhausted, uncertain, carrying everything they owned in battered suitcases and cloth bundles. When ships entered New York Harbor, passengers would crowd the decks, straining for their first glimpse of America. What they saw first was the Statue of Liberty, dedicated in 1886. This colossal copper statue, a gift from France, rose 305 feet above the harbor on Liberty Island. The sculptor, Frederick August Bartholdi, designed it to represent Libertas, the Roman goddess of liberty. In her right hand, she holds a torch raised high. In her left arm, she carries a tablet inscribed with the date of American independence, July 4th, 1776. A broken shackle and chain lie at her feet, symbolizing the abolition of slavery. Emma Lazarus's poem, The New Colossus, added to the statue's pedestal in 1903, contains the famous lines, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." For immigrants arriving at Ellis Island, processing could take hours or days. Doctors examined each person for signs of disease or disability. Inspectors asked questions about employment, finances, and criminal history. Most people passed through successfully, but about 2% were detained for additional examination, and a small percentage were denied entry and sent back to their countries of origin. The emotional weight of these moments, the hope, fear, joy, and occasional heartbreak, soaked into Ellis Island's red brick walls. These immigrants transformed New York into a truly global city. Neighborhoods developed distinct ethnic characters. Little Italy, Chinatown, the Jewish Lower East Side, Irish Hell's Kitchen, Greek Astoria, and countless other enclaves formed, each maintaining traditions from the old country while adapting to American life. This cultural mixing created new forms of music, food, art, and language. Jazz emerged from this melting pot. Pizza became an American food. Yiddish expressions entered English. New York's diversity became its defining characteristic. Until 1898, New York City consisted only of Manhattan and a small part of what is now the Bronx. Brooklyn was a completely separate city, the nation's fourth largest, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island were collections of towns and villages. But civic leaders envisioned something grander, a unified metropolis that could compete with London and Paris as a world capital. On January 1st, 1898, the five boroughs, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, officially merged to form Greater New York City. The consolidation created the world's second-largest city by population, home to 3.4 million people across 299 square miles. This merger wasn't universally popular. Many Brooklyn residents opposed it, proud of their independent city's identity and wary of Manhattan's political machine. But consolidation passed, and the new city began knitting itself together through infrastructure. The Brooklyn Bridge, completed in 1883, had already connected Manhattan and Brooklyn, though each remained separate cities. This engineering marvel, designed by John A. Roebling and completed by his son Washington Roebling after John's death, spanned 1,595 feet across the East River. When it opened, it was the longest suspension bridge in the world. Its Gothic stone towers rose 276 feet above the water, and its steel cables were strong enough to support a roadway for vehicles, a rail line, and an elevated pedestrian walkway. On opening day, over 150,000 people crossed the bridge, marveling at the views and the sensation of walking so high above the water. Following consolidation, the city built more connections between the boroughs. The Williamsburg Bridge opened in 1903, the Queensboro Bridge in 1909, the Manhattan Bridge in 1912. The subway system, which had opened in 1904 entirely within Manhattan, gradually extended into Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx, tying the far-flung boroughs together. Staten Island remained more isolated, connected to Brooklyn only by ferry, until the Verrazano Narrows Bridge opened in 1964. Each borough developed its own personality. Manhattan remained the commercial and cultural heart, home to Wall Street's financial district, Broadway's theaters, and Midtown's skyscrapers. Brooklyn cultivated a strong working-class identity, with industrial waterfronts and densely packed neighborhoods of brownstones and apartment buildings. Queens became the most ethnically diverse area in the United States, with immigrant communities from every corner of the world. The Bronx developed grand boulevards and parks, though it would face severe economic challenges in the late 20th century. Staten Island retained a more suburban character, with lower density and stronger connections to New Jersey than to the rest of New York. This consolidation created the foundation for New York's 20th century dominance. The unified city could undertake massive projects, build comprehensive infrastructure, and present a united front to the world. It became America's unquestioned cultural and financial capital, a position it maintains today. New York's skyline tells the story of American ambition reaching upward. In the late 19th century, new technologies, steel frame construction, electric elevators, and eventually reinforced concrete made tall buildings practical for the first time. New York, with its bedrock close to the surface in many areas and its intense demand for downtown office space, became the natural laboratory for this vertical architecture. The race to build the world's tallest building captivated the city in the 1920s and 30s. In 1930, the Bank of Manhattan Trust Building, now known as 40 Wall Street, reached 927 feet, briefly claiming the title of world's tallest. But just 11 months later, the Chrysler Building surpassed it at 1,046 feet. The Chrysler Building's Art Deco crown, clad in gleaming stainless steel, became an instant icon, perhaps the most beautiful skyscraper ever built. Its lobby features rare African marbles and a ceiling mural depicting transportation and human energy. Yet the Chrysler Building's reign as tallest lasted less than a year. In 1931, the Empire State Building opened, rising 1,250 feet, or 1,454 feet if you count the antenna. For 4 decades, it would remain the world's tallest building. Its construction, accomplished in just 410 days during the depths of the Great Depression, employed thousands of workers and became a symbol of American determination. The building has 102 floors and 73 elevators. Its distinctive Art Deco design and prominent location make it visible from much of the city. The observation decks on the 86th and 102nd floors have welcomed over 120 million visitors since opening, offering breathtaking views across all 5 boroughs. The Empire State Building held its title until 1971, when the World Trade Center's Twin Towers surpassed it. Those buildings, 110 stories each, redefined the downtown skyline and became international symbols of commerce and connection. Their destruction on September 11, 2001, devastated New York and the world. The recovery and rebuilding took years, but in 2014, One World Trade Center opened, rising 1,776 feet, a deliberate reference to the year of American independence. It reclaimed the title of Western Hemisphere's tallest building and restored the downtown skyline. Today's Manhattan skyline presents a forest of towers, each an architectural statement. The sleek glass of Seagram Building, Mies van der Rohe's modernist masterpiece. The tiered wedding cake setbacks of older buildings, required by zoning laws to allow light to reach the streets. The crystalline forms of new luxury towers along Billionaires Row near Central Park, some reaching over 1,400 feet, despite their slender profiles. These buildings house thousands of workers, residents, and visitors. They represent enormous investments of capital, labor, and imagination. They transform the city's silhouette daily as new towers rise, some elegant, some controversial, but all asserting that New York continues reaching upward. New York's cultural institutions have shaped American and global culture for over a century. Broadway, a theater district centered on Times Square, has presented live performances since the late 1800s. Today, 41 professional theaters, most located between 41st and 54th Streets, present musicals, plays, and revivals to millions of audience members each year. Broadway shows have launched careers, defined genres, and created cultural touchstones. From Oklahoma to Hamilton, West Side Story to The Lion King. These productions have influenced how Americans tell stories, understand history, and express emotions. The Metropolitan Museum of Art, founded in 1870, houses over 2 million works spanning 5,000 years of human creativity. Located on Fifth Avenue along Central Park's eastern edge, the Met's massive building could swallow several city blocks. Its collections include ancient Egyptian artifacts, European old master paintings, American decorative arts, arms and armor, musical instruments, costumes, and art from Africa, Asia, and the Americas. On any given day, visitors might study a pharaoh's sarcophagus, admire Vermeer's use of light, examine samurai armor, or contemplate works by contemporary artists. Entry is suggested donation for New York residents, making world-class art accessible to everyone. The Museum of Modern Art, founded in 1929, helped establish modern art's legitimacy and importance. MoMA's collection includes Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, Van Gogh's The Starry Night, Warhol's Campbell's Soup Cans, and thousands of other works that redefined art in the 20th century. The museum also collects design objects, photographs, and films, recognizing that artistic innovation occurs across all media. Like the Met, MoMA welcomes millions of visitors annually, educating and inspiring them about art's power to see the world differently. Harlem, the neighborhood stretching across northern Manhattan, became the center of African American culture during the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s and 30s. Writers like Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. Musicians like Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong. And intellectuals like W.E.B. Du Bois and Alain Locke created a cultural flowering that influenced American art and thought. Jazz clubs, literary salons, and community organizations made Harlem the capital of Black America, a place where African American excellence could flourish despite the oppression of segregation and racism. That cultural legacy continues today in Harlem's churches, theaters, restaurants, and community institutions. Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, the Apollo Theater, Radio City Music Hall, countless smaller venues across all boroughs. These spaces host performances that define culture. The New York Philharmonic, founded in 1842, is America's oldest symphony orchestra. Jazz clubs in Greenwich Village nurtured bebop and other innovations. Hip-hop emerged from the Bronx in the 1970s and became a global phenomenon. Off-Broadway and off-Broadway theaters experiment with new forms. Comedy clubs launch careers. Art galleries in Chelsea, the Lower East Side, and Brooklyn showcase emerging artists. This cultural energy never stops, never settles, constantly reinvents itself. More than 8 million people call New York City home, making it by far America's largest city. Los Angeles, the second largest, has fewer than half as many residents. These 8 million souls live in an area of just 302 square miles, creating one of the world's densest urban environments. Manhattan's density reaches 70,000 people per square mile in some neighborhoods, requiring unprecedented infrastructure to support daily life. The city's diversity defies simple description. Over 800 languages are spoken in New York, more than any other city on Earth. You can hear Mandarin in Flushing, Russian in Brighton Beach, Spanish in Washington Heights, Arabic in Bay Ridge, Korean in Bayside, Polish in Greenpoint, and countless other languages in neighborhoods throughout the 5 boroughs. This linguistic diversity reflects immigration patterns spanning centuries. The largest immigrant groups today come from the Dominican Republic, China, Mexico, Jamaica, India, and Ecuador. But virtually every country on Earth has residents in New York. This diversity extends to religious practice. New York is home to the largest Jewish community outside Israel, thriving Muslim communities from dozens of countries, multiple branches of Christianity with ancient and modern roots, Buddhist and Hindu temples, Sikh gurdwaras, and practitioners of countless other faiths. Houses of worship dot every neighborhood, from grand cathedrals to modest storefront churches, from historic synagogues to new mosques, each serving communities that maintain traditions while adapting to urban American life. The economic engine that supports these 8 million people operates around the clock. New York hosts the headquarters of more Fortune 500 companies than any other city. Wall Street, though now a symbolic term rather than a precise location, represents America's financial center. The New York Stock Exchange, founded in 1792 under a buttonwood tree on Wall Street, facilitates trillions of dollars in trades annually. Major banks, investment firms, insurance companies, and financial service providers employ hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers in well-paying jobs that fund the city's tax base. But finance represents only one sector of the city's diversified economy. Media and entertainment companies, from global television networks to independent film producers, base operations here. Publishing houses that shape American literature call New York home. Tech companies have created Silicon Alley in Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn, challenging San Francisco's dominance. Fashion design, from haute couture to streetwear, centers on New York. Food service employs hundreds of thousands across 27,000 restaurants. Healthcare, education, retail, construction, real estate, and countless other industries contribute to an economy that produces over $1 trillion in goods and services annually. Beneath these grand narratives lie countless smaller facts that make New York endlessly fascinating. The city's street grid system in Manhattan, established in 1811, organized future development around numbered streets running east-west and avenues running north-south. This rational plan made navigation simple and enabled efficient development, though it also obliterated the island's natural topography and irregular colonial streets in most areas. Below Houston Street, the grid doesn't apply, and streets follow older, organic patterns with names instead of numbers. New York City's water supply system ranks among the world's largest and most complex. The city gets its water from reservoirs in the Catskill Mountains and Croton watershed, up to 125 miles away. This water flows through massive underground aqueducts entirely by gravity, requiring no pumping. The system delivers over 1 billion gallons of water daily to 9 million customers. The water's quality is so high that it's one of only 5 major cities in America whose water doesn't require filtration. Though it is disinfected and treated, the city maintains 520 miles of coastline, more than Miami, Boston, Los Angeles, and San Francisco combined. This extensive waterfront has shaped the city's development. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, New York's ports were the busiest in the world, receiving cargo ships, luxury liners, and naval vessels. While container shipping has moved to New Jersey, the waterfront has been transformed into parks, esplanades, and recreational spaces. Brooklyn Bridge Park, Hudson River Park, and the East River waterfront offer New Yorkers access to water that was once blocked by industrial uses and decaying piers. Grand Central Terminal, opened in 1913, processes over 750,000 passengers daily, making it the world's busiest train station. Its main concourse, with its soaring ceiling painted with constellations, has appeared in countless films and photographs. The building contains secrets: a secret train platform, Track 61, used by presidents arriving by train; the Whispering Gallery, where architectural acoustics allow you to hear someone whispering from across the vaulted space; and a hidden apartment built for a tycoon who never used it. The New York Public Library's main building, opened in 1911, holds over 50 million items in its collections. The Rose Main Reading Room, 297 feet long and 78 feet wide, with 52-foot ceilings decorated with clouded murals, provides one of the world's great spaces for thought and study. The library's iconic lion statues, nicknamed Patience and Fortitude, have guarded the entrance for over a century. This library, like many of New York's cultural institutions, offers its resources free to all, embodying democratic ideals of education and self-improvement. New York's 5 boroughs contain hundreds of distinct neighborhoods, each with its own character, history, and culture. In Manhattan, the Upper West Side's brownstones house families and professionals near Central Park and Lincoln Center. The Upper East Side, home to Museum Mile and expensive co-ops, has traditionally been wealthier and more conservative. Greenwich Village and the East Village cultivated bohemian reputations, attracting artists, writers, and counterculture movements. Soho's cast-iron buildings, once warehouses, now house galleries and boutiques. The Lower East Side, once the most densely populated place on earth with tenements crammed with immigrants, has gentrified while retaining traces of its Jewish, Chinese, and Puerto Rican heritage. Brooklyn's diversity rivals entire cities. Williamsburg has transformed from industrial waterfront to hipster haven to expensive neighborhood in just 2 decades. Park Slope's tree-lined streets and brownstones create a family-friendly atmosphere. Bedford-Stuyvesant, or Bed-Stuy, historically Brooklyn's largest African-American neighborhood, contains stunning architecture and vibrant culture. Brooklyn Heights, one of the city's first suburbs, offers proximity to Manhattan with a quieter pace. Coney Island, The beachfront neighborhood at Brooklyn's southern tip once hosted massive amusement parks that drew millions. Though diminished, it still offers boardwalk charm, beach access, and the historic Cyclone roller coaster. Queens, the city's largest borough by area, houses the most ethnic diversity. Flushing's Chinatown rivals Manhattan's in size and vitality, with excellent restaurants and markets. Jackson Heights hosts communities from Colombia, Ecuador, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Nepal, their presence evident in restaurants, shops, and religious institutions. Astoria's Greek community has been joined by Middle Eastern, Eastern European, and Latin American populations. Long Island City, once entirely industrial, now hosts gleaming residential towers and art galleries. The Bronx, often stereotyped by its challenges in the 1970s and 80s, contains remarkable diversity and resilience. The Grand Concourse, a wide boulevard lined with Art Deco apartment buildings, was designed to be the Champs-Élysées of the Bronx. Riverdale, in the Northwest Bronx, offers suburban-style living within city limits. The Bronx Zoo, opened in 1899, sprawls across 265 acres and houses over 6,000 animals. The New York Botanical Garden, 250 acres of curated gardens and natural forest, offers an oasis of green. Arthur Avenue, the Bronx's Little Italy, maintains authentic Italian-American culture and cuisine. Staten Island, the most suburban borough, feels almost like a different city. Connected to Brooklyn only by ferry, its residents often identify more strongly with Staten Island than with New York City as a whole. The Staten Island Ferry, free since 1997, provides 25-minute rides across the harbor, offering spectacular views of the skyline and Statue of Liberty. The borough's parks and less dense development appeal to families seeking more space. As we near the end of our journey through New York tonight, let your breathing deepen further. Let the facts and stories we've shared settle like snow on the city's streets, each unique, each part of something larger. New York City stands as testament to human ambition, creativity, resilience, and the power of diversity. From Dutch trading posts to global metropolis, from Swampland to Central Park, from horse-drawn carriages to subway trains, the city has continually transformed itself while maintaining essential character. New York has faced challenges throughout its history. Financial crises, epidemics, fires, blackouts, terrorist attacks. Each test has been met with determination to rebuild stronger. The city's greatest strength lies in its people, 8 million individuals from every background imaginable, creating something no single group could achieve alone. Their languages blend on street corners. Their cuisines mix in restaurants. Their traditions merge and create new forms. This constant mixing, this perpetual innovation, this refusal to settle into a final form, this is New York's true genius. And now, before you drift into dreams, we'd love to hear from you. If you found peace in these stories of New York, if you discovered something new, if this journey helped you relax, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Restful Realities. Your support helps us continue creating these peaceful explorations of the world's most fascinating places. And in the comments below, tell us, where are you watching from tonight? What city or country calls to you from your corner of the world? We love hearing from viewers around the globe, connecting through these shared moments of learning and rest out. Thank you for spending this time with us, exploring New York City's gentle rhythms and hidden stories. May your dreams be peaceful, your rest deep, and your tomorrow bright. From all of us at Restful Realities, good night